sad as well. We do have some wonderful people leaving us as well. So without any further ado, if you could please join us as former board member Ms. Danielle Dench leads us through the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Danielle. Okay, that brings us to recommendation for tenure.
Okay, as George said, oh, I'm sorry, yes, go ahead, George. I'm jumping again.
That was not me. Recommended action that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of school, the Board of Education approves the tenure appointment of the following individuals: Courtney Fabian, Elizabeth Muller, Sarah Reisenberg, and Jennifer Bolger. Motion?
Motion.
Second. Discussion. No.
Okay,
You talking about?
you want me to convince you?
Yeah, I need a little.
I don't think they need convincing. But yes, as George said, today is a wonderful day, and the way we're doing this is we're kind of we're talking about, first off, we've got some new hires in the agenda tonight, and we can talk a little bit about that later in the agenda. But now we're going to talk about some people who are going to spend their entire career here, and I'm asking the board to make an investment in the future settlements in these four individuals because we believe so strongly that they will contribute in magnificent ways to settlements. And then at the same time, we're going to honor those people who have done just that, what we're going to ask these people to do. So what I'll do is I'm going to talk a little bit about them, but then I'd like to defer to Dennis Ritchie and Melissa Reggio to talk a little bit more about them because they're in their buildings and they can provide a little bit more information. So we will start with Elizabeth Muller, who came to us from New York City. She has finished her third year and is in the elementary school teaching first grade. I'm going to kick it to Dennis to talk a little bit about Liz. And if you didn't know, there's a balloon in the back.
I think Liz's fan club makes it easy for me to give a sales pitch. Liz came to us 3 years ago, and I've never seen, well, I have seen some people, but I've never seen a person so seamlessly and organically, like, just become part of a team, part of a culture, and build the culture within a building. So Liz came to us obviously with a background and we actually have unpacked different things over the years with international travel and international teaching background in being in bilingual classrooms and giving us a wealth of knowledge about what her expertise in the city has been able to bring to just discussions that we're having at the building level now. And a plethora of just best practices and experience in New York City schools, which we all know, provide, just like we do, tremendous professional development for their teachers and unique opportunities. So Liz was able to give us a kind of a breath of fresh air and some different perspectives, but has pushed her team to be their best also. And I think they do that to one another. There's this constant one-upsmanship that's going on in the first grade team, and it's really a beautiful thing to watch. So we're extremely satisfied with the work that she's done, eager to see the things that she's going to do in the future, and we love having her on board. So thank you, Liz.
So we have a small gift here. It's just kind of like a nice little box with your name on it. It says tenure 2024. I mean, it's still pending a vote. But all right, and so now we're going to actually, I'm going to ask Dennis and Melissa to kind of tag team because we have Sarah, who's with us tonight, and Sarah started at the elementary school, did 3 years there, and then, that was enough time. She was an accelerated student and moved up to the middle school. So it only took 3 years to get through 6 years worth of curriculum at elementary school, and now she's at the middle school working as a teaching assistant. So Dennis, if you could talk a little bit about Sarah. And then
Sure. Ironically, I actually had my pen the other day in my pocket, my little wooden park pen, my dinner pen. So I thought I was going to have that moment. But so Sarah came to us a couple of years ago, and it's been, she's one of those people who I've never seen a dedication to continuing to learn more about her craft. She is absolutely committed to being a team player, pushing the people around her, really wanting to learn and invest in the work that we're doing within a school. I think she probably learned, 5, 6 different reading programs that she had committed to learning just as we were investigating new programs and trying to figure out what's the best things for our students. Had unbelievable spreadsheets and different ways of collecting data for our kids that was so meaningful when we did have to have some challenging discussions about students that had greater needs. And did so much to kind of galvanize our RTI program and the work that we were doing with that. So we're really happy with the work that she had done and eager to see what she's going to do in the future for the middle school.
Mm-hmm. In the middle school, Sarah is in our 811 classroom, and I remember when she first started, 811 was new to her. If you walked in the classroom today, you would never ever know that. It was a seamless transition, and that's really a testament to her dedication and hard work and commitment to being successful no matter which placement we put her in, which tells me that she's going to be a successful member of the Center Ridge School District for years to come. She loves those students and is a go-getter in the building. If she sees a need or hears of a need, she takes an active role and fulfills the need for not only her 811 classroom, but the school as a whole. So we're so excited that we will continue to the middle school, and we're excited to work with her in years to come.
We're continuing on. I still remember the day I met Jenny, because it was kind of like we were like trying to figure out how we're going to cover this facts class and what are we going to do, and then they were like, well, I think Larry's wife might be able to help us out. It was kind of like, what, really? And I met her, and I was like, her background was really art, and I remember talking about it. She had all these like creative ideas. And it just was the perfect fit. And it turned into just something that's been exceptional. And I think our kids, we've seen the benefit because of Jenny's dedication. So I'll pass over to Melissa.
That is a good segue. Jenny Goldberg is a perfect fit for Center Ridge Middle School and the 6th grade team. Jenny is a gem of a human being, and we absolutely adore her. If you walked into the middle school today, you would never know that she's completing her 4th year here. You would think that it's her tenure here because she is a leader in the school building. You would never know that she was an untenured teacher. Jenny takes an active role in our school and our community as a whole. I'm sure you see her everywhere. She takes an active role in our No Place for Hate initiatives, peer leadership initiatives. Family and Consumer Science Club is probably the most highly attended club. She has to set up a rotation system because everybody wants to join. Once they have her in 6th grade, the 7th graders and 8th graders are eager to come back right back into the classroom. She takes an active role in all of our DEI initiatives for the district. She's an NYP mentor, and she's another go-getter that if she sees a need in the building, she's fulfilling it, or she's coming down and says, I noticed this, do you want me to do this, or how can I help with this? She's always lending a helping hand. In the classroom, she's a meticulous planner. Her 6th grade Family and Consumer Science room is always alive when you walk in. The students are truly the center of that classroom, and they adore her. Her connections with our students are really second to none. She knows our 6th graders so well, and really is a leader in their transition from 5th grade to 6th grade. She really takes the lead on the 6th grade team with that, and makes that her passion for the first few weeks of school, and really helps them make Center Ridge Middle School their new home completely. So that all funnels through her Family and Consumer Science class, and was really an initiative that she created and came up with, and has ran with it the past few years. You'll see a lot of her activities around the school because they'll come home talking about their food truck wars and their monster mash if they go to Clayton Huey. We love Mrs. Bolger. We love Mr. Bolger, but now we love Mrs. Bolger just as much. And she is an absolutely amazing teacher, and our 6th graders are blessed to be in her classroom. I love having her part of our sixth grade team. So it is
Yeah.
my pleasure to recommend her.
Well, you're not allowed.
I know.
I get it. But so Larry, sorry, but I think she went from Larry's wife, now you are Jenny's husband.
Well, they get her first. So they're like, oh.
But Jenny, congratulations. Okay, and we have one other person to talk about, and obviously this person is no stranger to Center Riches. Courtney's been here since 2006, right? 2006, so been here a long time, but changed roles. And when it's very difficult when you are working in a place for a long time, sometimes to make that switch and to go from teacher mode, or in this case, social worker mode, to all of a sudden becoming a building leader. And I would say that, Courtney has done that so gracefully, and it is really just such a win for Center Riches and what she brings every day to support our kids, to support our teachers, to support our families. So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa for some words on Courtney.
So when I first started in Center Riches 13 years ago, Mrs. Fabian was the district-wide social worker. So she was running from Clayton Dewey to the middle school to the high school, and doing it so well. But it was evident to me after watching her role that she was a natural leader in the Center Riches School District and community at large. Everybody really respected her opinions, valued her input and conversations, and she was a go-to person for not only the students, but the staff and the parents. And her natural leadership just always had me knocking at her door saying, you would be a great administrator. If ever you want to be an administrator, I think you would be awesome. And Mrs. Fabian, knowing when the time was right for her, stepped up 4 years ago to be the middle school assistant principal, and she has done a phenomenal job. And I can say from the bottom of my heart that hiring her as middle school assistant principal was probably the best decision that I've made in the 11 years that I've been the principal of the middle school. She's absolutely wonderful, so I just want to tell you a few things because I wrote too much, but one thing about Fabian is that she is an assistant principal with the heart of a social worker, and you can see that in her interactions with the students, staff, and the community. And she's always going to a problem and never away from it. And she's always going with both arms extended, saying, "How can I help? What can I do? What do you need?" She is a woman of faith that will always stand up for what's right and just. Her moral compass is spot on, and as a building leader, I feel like that's one of the most important attributes about her. Is that I know that she's making decisions always in what's in the best interest of students, and from always like a fair, amazing way. And her she knows every student, every parent, usually a lot about them. Mrs. Fabian grew up around here, so her community connections are second to none. She knows the students, their parents, their sister, their mother, where they graduated from high school, who they used to date. She has historical knowledge that really helps in the connections of the students. So many people come by the middle school and they're like, is that you? And she has these connections with families that are very special because they're generations long. Something also very important is that the assistant principals are charged with dealing with the bulk of the discipline in their buildings, which is a challenging role that they have. But again, her consistency and her fairness make it such a place that the students feel safe and comfortable coming to her, because she, again, operates with that part of a social worker and ends with like a restorative counseling approach. She is a strong presence in our school. A lot of the times students are like, oh, Mrs. Fabian, and we play the good cop, bad cop, yin and yang. And she always jokes and she says, you think I'm strong here? Imagine if I was your mom. I have 3 boys at home. Imagine what I'm like. And they're like, ah! But at her heart, she has a tough exterior and a heart of gold. And it is a pleasure to work with her every single day, and really, truly such an asset to the middle school and the district at large. So I'm so excited to be here tonight.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. So, what Board of Education, there is a strong recommendation for 4 parents of tenure, so
It's nice
it's
to
up to you
hear,
now.
it's nice to hear, such passionate, I don't even know how to say it. It's just nice to hear how much you are passionately advocating for these educators to get tenure, because this really is a 30-year decision, so it's always good to know that you're in good standing and making a good decision when we vote on this. So let's, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes, motion carries unanimously.
So, as I said, that's, strong congratulations, and this board has just made an investment in the future of Seven Ranches with these 4 individuals who will be spending their careers here, and we couldn't be happier. So what we will, my notes say that I'm to announce that there will be cupcakes after the meeting. So we are celebrating. So we do have some refreshments. We do have one presentation after we do some more acknowledgements, and then we will adjourn after we conduct our business and have a little reception. But so we go from the people who just earned their tenure to our retirees. Collectively, the retirees represent 167 years of service to Seven Ranches. Extraordinary. Just wonderful careers. At each board meeting when we accepted them, we did say some words about each of them, but we asked them to come back. I think I saw most of them. I think there may have been one I did not see. Okay. So let me go through. In terms of the number, I'll start with the Brenda Bloomberg from Elementary Art. If you have gone to the Elementary Art Show, it is in full display, just remarkable. This year was just exceptional, and Brenda always does an extraordinary job. It's a treat to see the work that our elementary kids, and it's not just the exposure, it's, I think, the inspiration that she gives to our kids to really level up. And so for a tremendous career and 20 years of service to our elementary school. I'll ask Dennis to come on up, please, and I'll ask the other 2 principals to come on up as we honor the rest. So Brenda Bloomberg, 20 years at the elementary school. Brenda, come on.
Yeah.
There's a speech involved.
We forgot that thing that they carry.
And supporting our students who struggle in reading at the elementary school for 27 years. Just exceptional service and everything Dennis has always raved about. The level of support and care and nurturing that Michelle has provided has been exceptional. So 27 years of service, Michelle Friedel. Okay, is Bob Spicer here? Okay, well, we certainly want to recognize Bob Spicer. He's the one I did not see. Bob has been teaching art science and earth science in particular in our middle school, and Bob has 28 years of service. So we're going to applaud for Bob. And I have to say, the next person I would honor, I think I might have said 27 years. And I realized that I had made a mistake. And so we want to honor 30 plus years for John Melandro in our social studies department. And I have to say that the 3 years that I forgot about, I think were years in in-school suspension room. So just to know that he came in here to do that job, which is not the most desirable job, and decided to stay for 30 years is certainly exceptional. But the words that people describe, and I may be saying a little bit more about John later. That's a little foreshadowing for those people. But I congratulate John Landro, 30 plus years, 30.
Thank you.
And with 30 years of service in our elementary school, we also have, and again, this is, I have a soft spot in my heart for Valentine. She was always one of those people that invited me into her class, got to work with the student council in the elementary school, and always made me feel really welcome here at St. Laurentius. So with 30 years of service at our elementary school, Lisa Valentine, and then we have one other teacher who has 32 years of service to St. Laurentius. Again, a teacher who really always made me feel welcome. You know, they say when you move into administration, like you're gonna have some really hard days, and the cure for that is to walk out of the kindergarten class. And so, you know, I have to say that every year, Melinda has invited me into her kindergarten class. And we're gonna have to get the rain check on this year. I missed it this year, so during Dr. Seuss week.
There's 9 days left.
I apologize, but we're gonna have to make that up, Linda. So 32 years of service and wonderful kindergarten teacher. We're gonna miss you.
It's Alex. Both head ladies up there. There's so much happening over
Okay, I'm gonna allow Mr. Maxwell.
Just, you know, from the Board of Education, we thank all the retirees. My children started here, all graduated, had many of you, in the case of Mr. Landro, had him multiple times, they took every class. I think that you offered, and, you know, these are not people that were just here for a minute, these are people that are the very fabric of St. Laurentius and what we accomplished here, and what our children are able to accomplish. We thank you for your dedicated years of service. Thank you very, very much.
If that's what the board president would like to do, that's what we can do. Yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
All right, so now we're moving on to our Teacher of the Year, our paraprofessional. So I want to just say that, again, this is a process that, you know, we have been doing, I think it's probably about 50 or 60 years, 55 years. But just really important just to highlight some people that are doing extraordinary work. And so for our paraprofessional of the year, she has been a paraprofessional for looks like 7 years, that's 2016. 8 years. Jill has basically, I'm going to read some of the stuff that came from the application. She's dedicated, she's been characterized as dedicated, effective, and a warm individual that always puts students first. Ms. Dordick's ability to handle difficult behaviors in a calm and professional manner is nothing short of inspiring. She approaches every situation as an opportunity for growth and learning. Jill has described as basically, not only is she there for the kids, but her infectious smile is just so warm that it lights up in the entire school. She's a colleague that consistently fosters a supportive and inclusive environment, ensuring that every student feels valued and understood. Her impact extends beyond individual students. She uplifts our entire educational community, promoting a culture of patience, understanding, and resilience. So for these reasons, Jill Godek is our 2024 paraprofessional. recognize Jill Godek for her outstanding dedication, commitment, and exemplary service as a paraprofessional in Center Merchants District. And Jill Godek has demonstrated an unwavering passion for supporting students' growth, fostering positive learning environments, and empowering individuals to reach their fullest potential. And whereas her tireless efforts, compassion, and enthusiasm have not only enriched the lives of students, but also inspired colleagues and the broader school community. And whereas her invaluable contributions, kindness, and professionalism embody the core values and mission of the Center Merchants School District, promoting excellence in education and fostering a culture of inclusivity, respect, and lifelong learning. And whereas Jill Godek's exceptional achievements are remarkable and remarkable impact have distinguished her as the epitome of excellence and a shining example of what it means to be a paraprofessional of the highest caliber. Now therefore, let it be proclaimed that on this day, the 12th of June, 2024, the Center Merchants School District proudly declares Jill Godek as the paraprofessional of the year for 2024. Well, we should probably get a group shot.
I know there's gonna be a group shot, but this is gonna happen too.
Exactly. Thank you. Now, for those who were following along earlier, I may have dropped a hint. I have to say, John, my missing those 3 years in ISS may have tilted the scales for you. But honestly, John, again, I'm going to read from some of the things that were described in the application. John is clearly a dedicated and passionate teacher. I have to say that, I'm not going to say that there's a favorite amongst one board member, but George has often commented about how the Maxwell family is in the Melandro fan club, and that's true. You have said that to me on several occasions. And so, John, you are deeply respected by your colleagues, by the kids, by the families of Center Merchants. So one of the things that talks about making John Melandro exceptional is the connections he makes with students. John has made such a profound impact on his students that they often invite him to their graduation parties, weddings, family celebrations. He attends their proms and hasn't missed a high school graduation since he started in Center Merchants 30 years ago. When they posted a video of Mr. Melandro in the ALS Bucket Challenge, former students got in there and commented in the social media, "That's my favorite teacher of all time." And Mr. Melandro is so awesome. And those are the kinds of things that you reflect on and that, John, you built a legacy, and your legacy is touching the lives of Center Merchants kids for 30 years. You're the epitome of what it means to be an educator that makes a difference in the lives of students, and a person that will never forget here in Center Merchants. So, John, congratulations. You're with utmost admiration and appreciation that we commend John Melandro for his exemplary dedication, outstanding leadership, and exceptional contribution as an educator in the Center Merchants School District. And whereas John Melandro has distinguished himself as a paragon of excellence, serving as a beacon of inspiration, encouragement, and support for students' endeavors and achievements throughout his career. And whereas his unwavering commitment to fostering a culture of inclusivity, respect, and academic excellence has empowered students to embrace challenges, pursue their passions, and achieve remarkable success, both inside and outside the classroom. And whereas John Melandro's remarkable ability to connect with students on a personal level, coupled with his genuine care, compassion, and mentorship, has left an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of those he has taught and inspired. And whereas his exemplary professionalism, integrity, and dedication to his craft have earned him the utmost respect and admiration of colleagues, administrators, and the broader school community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that on this day, the 12th of June, 2024, the Center Merchants School District proudly recognizes John Melandro as the Teacher of the Year for 2024. Oh my God. Okay, the president of the board is declaring attendance. But we can't do that in this building. We do recognize one other individual. I have to say that, being superintendent, is, not always the easiest job in the world, and I rely on, the effectiveness of the governance team that works with me. And for the past 6 years, George Maxwell has served. George has asked me to not make a big deal, because that is who George is. But I told him, well, I have to say some nice things. It's my responsibility. But George, the thing that I would say about George as a Board of Education president is that George has always really, the word integrity comes to mind, because George has always just been there for kids. He's never asked for anything, never sought a special favor or anything. And as a board president, has always stood by and respected the voices of not only every single board member here, but in particular the kids in Central Riches and the entire community of Central Riches. George is an exemplary model of leadership, and so for that reason, George, I offer you my heartfelt thanks for your years of service and a very small token of appreciation. Janine thought 6 inches was taller than that. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute recess and enjoy some cupcakes and waters and.
Celebration for all our retirees.
Yeah, can we get a picture with everybody that was on it?
There's cupcakes. You may never see those again.
Yeah?
But you have it on.
started. Pick back up. Just going to wait one moment for Bill to let us know when he's ready. Okay, when he's ready. Yeah, okay, great. All right, so we good? Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the cupcakes. We are going to pivot a little bit. We do have a presentation, but I know there are some people that are sitting anxiously in the audience, waiting for the consent agenda. So, and I'm glad that I'm still here for this. So we're going to go to the wait, do I have to do everything? Let me do everything and then we'll come, right?
Okay, yeah.
So first we'll,
Just skip the superintendent.
we'll skip the superintendent's report. I'll do everything else and we'll do that at the end. Questions and comments regarding tonight's agenda only? Okay. Financial reports. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, accepts the following financial reports. Internal claims audit report, May 2024. Motion?
Motion.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Donations, be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education accepts the following donations. $600 donation from the PTO, supplies for the DEI cultural event, and a $500 donation from Suffolk Association of School Business Officials for scholarships. Terry, if you could, that's your association, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. And thank you to the PTO for donating for our DEI cultural event. Motion?
Motion.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Approval of all consent agenda items as presented. Be it resolved, a motion to approve consent agenda items 11A through 16B. Yes, 16B. Motion?
Motion.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, motion carries unanimously.
And so we offer congratulations to Alex, Brett, and Rachel. We'd like to So for you guys, if you stick around for 4 years, you get a pen. And if you stick around for 30, you get everything else.
You get flowers.
Yes, looking forward to a great career.
And a pension.
I'm not a tear That'll get fixed. We're gonna go back now. We'll come back to general public comment.
Well, you do.
What is
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go back now to the beginning of the superintendent's report. We do have a presentation. You are more than welcome to stay for that. You are also more than welcome to grab a cupcake. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
No, Brian.
Congratulations. Okay.
All right. All right, it's myself and Dr.
Oh, that.
So, all right, so Dr. Meyer and I would like to share a presentation called Charting the Course. Essentially, we began last summer, and I think to start, I think 4 years or 5 years ago now, when I first came in, we talked about this idea, and I think Danielle and Marcus and who's on that board that hired me, but we talked about this idea of, kind of building Sandwich's footprint, making the regional leader in K-12 public education. And at the time, the idea was that if we kind of charted the course toward bringing international baccalaureate in here, PYP, MYP, and IB, diploma program, we thought that that could provide some consistency in instruction K-12 in a district that would then, and again, bring in many of the mental health initiatives that were brought in, really become a district that people would look at as a regional leader in K-12 public education. But now, again, we accomplished that goal next year. We started to think about, well, how are we going to steer this district into the next 5 years, so from 24 through 29. And we thought that last summer, Amy and I talked about the idea of doing a full-blown strategic planning initiative so that we could really engage our community effectively and find out what this community really values and bring that back and have this strategic plan that we would develop collectively with our community. So I'd like to start by, thank you, Amy. Okay, just start by thanking the participants. Started out with over 30 people in a room in district office, a really full room. Lots of community members, from people that were just former graduates from many, many years ago. We reached out to almost every stakeholder in the community, from the Little League to Herb Strobel, to lots of people in the community, community leaders, as well as district personnel, teachers, just parents in the community. And we had all of these people from, obviously District Clerk Hall was there, as well as, and you can see about 30 people. Even Russ Stewart, former superintendent, was in the room. And so lots of stakeholders and lots of good conversation around that. And at the time, we introduced what's referred to as a thought exchange. And we leveraged this idea of some really cool technology that incorporates sort of like a survey, but not a traditional survey, a survey that really exchanges ideas. And that's the thought exchange survey. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Subsequent to that, we did a climate survey that had teachers, students, and support staff that we put out there for everyone to complete. And we had a great number of responses on that again, provided data for us. Our administrative team and our Board of Education, in terms of over the course of the year, we kept informing, and at our administrative council meeting, we would talk about this and gather ideas, move this initiative forward, and obviously had several updates to the Board of Education over the course of the year. So this is basically our journey and our process, and basically we kind of come down this winding road through strategic planning. As I indicated, we engaged a lot of stakeholders. We knew what was coming out of state ed. We knew what the Blue Ribbon Commission's work was going to be, or was projected to be, and really looking at some changing expectations for education in New York State, plugged into the idea of what the Regents was working on and their Blue Ribbon Commission. And so in the back of our head, we knew that we wanted to come up with this idea of a portrait of a graduate. What does it take for a graduate of Sandwich to be successful in the world? And so that was an important driving force for us as we started to think about this thing. So as I said, we used the thought exchange, and thought exchange, there were 122 participants, and over 2,100, I was just going off of that, over 21 distinct engagements. The question, the provocation we used for the thought exchange was right here. What do you value most about Sandwiches? We want people to dig in and say, what are the things you really love about Sandwiches? And then, what can we do better? So it was, again, working with thought exchange. This provocation was put out there as a way to really try to get both sides of the conversation going. Their thought was you put one question out there, but you basically allow people to engage, and you get unique engagements and unique responses from people. So of the 122 participants, 77 unique thoughts were put in there. So people would comment and put I love the small, tight-knit community that is Sandwich. That's one comment. I think we could do this better. Might be another comment. And then what happens is, individuals have to rate those comments. So when we have 77 thoughts in there were 2,166 actual engagements where people went in there and rated those thoughts. So on a 1 to 5 Likert scale, you might say, I think that's comment is a 5. I really agree with that. Or you might say it's a 1. I disagree with that. And that's a good way to gauge it. The way I always looked at it is if you get 30 or more people commenting, you probably have a good sample size for something like this. And then you could gauge whether on the Likert scale it's a 1 to a 5, you can really see what the effectiveness of that comment is. So basically, if we look at who participated in the thought exchange, 54% of the thought exchange were parents or guardians, 42% were faculty and staff, and 24% were community members. So a pretty broad spectrum of people actually participated. No students participated in this, but again, the data that we got from students was a much larger sample from our climate survey that we'll get into a little bit later. So, and when we look at the buildings, again, across the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school, it was pretty balanced. So it wasn't heavily weighted toward one or the other. The data shows that information came from all over our district. So all different constituent groups and all different buildings. And this is the word cloud. This is where we started with the word cloud that basically was generated out of it. One of the things that I have to say the best, I don't know if it's the best part, but the part that I really loved about using Thought Exchange is the AI piece of it. It takes our bias out of it, and it really looks at the comments and the suggestions from our community. And so this is not something that I can manipulate, I can create, or Amy can. This is something that's generated by the AI in the system. And so the more people talk about things, the more they show up on here. So the value of social emotional learning, the small tight-knit community that we have, these are the kinds of things that people value in sandwiches. And so when we look at the key thoughts, and we're going to make this presentation available to everybody. In the interest of time, there are a bunch of these slides. So I'm going to go through very, very quickly, but this presentation will be available. The board, you have a copy of it. If anybody would like a copy, Danielle, Brian, we can get you copies of this, certainly. But again, valuing the integration of and inclusion of our special ed students, valuing the tight-knit culture, all of these things. You can see 44 different people rated these things, and they rated rather high. So these are the ones that actually came in real high for us. As far as diversity, equity, and inclusion, you can see the integration of special education students into our curriculum was something that was valued, and obviously, Brian, it's something that you feel passionate about, and that's what our community believes we should be doing, and I think that speaks to the success of our Unified program. But supportive peer groups, value shared decision making, all of these things were real positives. And if I'm missing anything, maybe just jump in. But again, valuing that small town feel of Center Regis, loving Center Regis, the love of Center Regis throughout the community. People really feel that the place is special, and all of these things I think were important. Some thoughts about that they really love the idea that we have this tight-knit community. It gives a sense of safety for our kids. The kids are comfortable taking risks in our educational environment because of this feeling. Did I do that? Did you want to say something?
Just the upgrade to facility.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so one of the things, we're not trying to pull out just the positives. Resoundingly in the thought exchange, lots of people positively agreed with the statement that there is a need for upgrading facilities and security measures, and it's a clear concern throughout the community. It's something our Board of Education and administrative team take incredibly seriously, and so it's nice to hear that those efforts are echoed in the community.
Thank you. And again, small student engagement. So the caring culture that's visible, like that. I like that, and that doesn't come from us. That comes from the community putting those things out there. And so, like I said, you could get in there and you could look at these kinds of things. There's some things around student learning, and what Thought Exchange does is we didn't create student learning as a bucket. The Thought Exchange does that, and then the comments go into that bucket. Again, so it's a powerful tool that provides a lot of information that we're able to share with the strategic planning committee to really prioritize the decisions and look at the data and look at some of the things that AI is generating about. As far as parents, having parents as partners, talking about our great PTO, the parent academies and things like that. All important things. Talk about college and career readiness. Here's one, again, Amy pointed out before. They'd like to see more technical and career skills. And that's something that came out in the thought exchange that we could do a little bit better on. Again, lots of positives, but also a lot of suggestions we could be doing. And this is, again, guiding a lot of the information that we're sharing. So I'm going to let you jump in on that.
So one of the other things that the AI does in Thought Exchange is it helps you to understand when there are conflicting thoughts within the community. And so this is a good example of one that has to do with IB. A-rated IB as something very positive for the community. And then the second response kind of indicates that it kind of alludes to the idea that IB is just for a few students. And so one of the things that we learned from that as an administrative team is that we have to improve our communication in exactly what IB is. We know that IB is for all students. Our PYP program is throughout our elementary school. Our MYP program is the same in the middle school. At the high school, all of our students are IB students with the ability to go for an additional credential. And so when we're seeing this and we're seeing people rate these thoughts, we realize that we do have some more communication marketing, if you will, to help the community understand what, the value of the IB education that Summer Riches offers, and that it is for all students.
Amy, excuse me,
Yes.
A and B are different respondents, or?
So there are two different thoughts that were conflicting, right? So everyone said they love the tech. Nobody said we hate our tight-knit community, right? But here they're saying IB is great, but why are we doing IB just for a few kids? And we know that to not be true, but if it's a perception in the community, we know that that's something that we have to address in our communication goals. Okay, yeah. So after the thought exchange, or kind of tangentially with the thought exchange, we engaged in a climate survey. And the climate survey focused on 3 areas. That's the environment, safety, and engagement. I know this is very small. Hopefully you can see it in front of you. At first glance, the thing that we looked at is like, okay, great. Everything's favorable or above. We have maybe some just a favorable, but we're doing good. And while that is true, we really dug into the data to say, but what does it tell us? So the first section is for just students. And again, I'm not going to go through piece by piece. We did this as a committee, but just to kind of illustrate the point. When we're talking about discipline from the student perspective, things like school rules are applied equally to all students, right? That's a statement, and students had to either strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. And we see that quite a few students, we're at 43 and 16, so 61% of our students are agreeing with that statement. And then we have, the other part of our student population who's saying, I don't believe that to be true. I disagree. And so there's work to be done here in our restorative practices, right? We still have work to understand the difference between equality and equity. And should they be equally applied? Should they not? And so we know here's an area, for example, where we really want to dig in. And we have started to.
And I think that's a key point, right? Is that this data, we had this conversation about the perceptions of IB, and we started because every time we have these things, we start talking. And you had asked that question. You said, we know that this is a perception problem, and this is how we know it. As far as this goes, this is something that the high school administration clearly, because this is mostly high school students that are reporting here. And the changes that we've made at the high school are certainly changes that address some of these perceptions as well. So it will be interesting to see when we do the climate survey next year, how those maybe change, hopefully.
And when you talk to that, I'm sorry, just,
Yep.
my teachers give me individual attention when I need it, right? We're talking about that small town, the individualized attention, the culture of care that we've built at the high school through all those administrative shifts and programmatic implementations. And we're seeing about 80% of our kids are responding
85.
positively to that. That's impressive already, but we still know that there's 20% who we need them to feel like there's an adult in the building that they can go to. And perhaps maybe there's one and they just want more, but those are the things that we're digging into with PAIR, and all of the different other ways that we explore student voice through our programs. Mental, do you want to keep going on? I think.
Yeah, all right, so
Yeah.
we could go through like data slide, but just to show you the kinds of things that are driving the information and the stuff that we're reporting back to our strategic planning committee. So mental health, the classroom environment here, our instructional environment, discipline, mental health, physical environment. And, like you can see that most of it's favorable, but there are highs and lows in that data that we can dig into further, and we have started to do so.
And if you're really interested and want to dig into this data, so then the next set is from the teacher perspective, right? So for the most part, it was teachers and students. We had some non-instructional staff, but not a large number. But it's broken up like that in the presentation, just for your
So now we're into the teacher data here, and the teacher's perceptions of the discipline. So.
Yeah.
And then physical environment, my teaching was hindered by a lack of instructional space. 64% want more instructional space. That's coming from the teachers. We need the facilities. Now we get to the parent information. Want to highlight anything, or just keep kind of going? I know it's if you just pick it up, you'll see how heavy this presentation is, but there's so much data in it.
physically.
Yeah, physically. And so we didn't want to belabor it too much, but we want to, again, show you the amount of data that we actually sorted through as we were preparing this and looking at it. And then student safety, again, mostly favorable, but some work that needs to be done in regard to bullying is the lowest in here, emotional safety, physical safety, and substance abuse. So here's some of the bullying things. There are some instances where kids are saying kids are bullied. So we need to be thinking about that. Physical safety, safety is from the teacher's perspective, mostly favorable. Again, this is from the teacher's perspective about bullying, and some of them are agreeing with what the kids want. You can see that. Physical safety, feeling safe at school for the teachers themselves, overwhelmingly feeling safe for teachers in particular. And then parents, again, clearly there's something, because we have kids saying that there's some bullying, we have teachers saying there's some bullying, and now we have parents saying that there's some bullying. There's work to be done. And so we really need to address some of these things. And then the substance abuse piece, student engagement was another. This is from the student perspective. And here's some of the cultural linguistic stuff. We're kind of just moving through. Relationships, engagement with the teacher. Again, we're kind of showing you it's repetitive, but we can dig deeper into this data, and we have.
And we'll continue to, of course. So then back in February through May is where a lot of the meat came from the strategic plan. We took all of the data from the climate survey, the thought exchange. We had multiple meetings where we collected stakeholder feedback, physically writing in notebooks, and then kind of put that in and use some AI technology to help us remove bias and understand that feedback as well. What the vision is for where they want Sunridges to go. We put that into AI. It generated these, and we said, wow, that's overwhelming. So let's do some things. Let's align it with IB. Let's boil it down to fewer statements that are more concise. There's a lot of overlap here. And what you'll see, what we ultimately got to with multiple renditions in AI, as well as bringing it back to the committee, wordsmithing things here or there, are these 5 value statements.
So in order to try to encapsulate all of those other values into 5 general value statements, that's kind of the work.
And
I'm
you
going
want
back.
yeah, just
Sure.
focus on, flexibility, responsiveness,
Oh, yeah.
and leadership, community impact and positive change, ethical integrity and global citizenship, collective partnerships for student well-being, as well as holistic development and innovative excellence. As a part of the strategic plan document, we would be remiss as a committee if we didn't include that we're an IB continuum school. You'll actually see how that sets us apart and really positions us well for the recommendations of the Blue Ribbon Commission. And again, another effort to try to communicate that all of our students are IB and they are benefiting from this global mindset curriculum. So that's why that is in the document. You want to keep going?
Yeah, go
Okay. So then what we did was we took our mission statement. There was a request from the Board of Education to take a look at the mission statement since we've become an IB continuum district to ensure that we're completely aligned. And so what we did was we juxtaposed the two mission statements. This is the IB mission statement. This was the previous version of the Sunrich's mission statement, right?
No,
Right?
no.
Okay.
But basically, again, incorporating all of the ideas through everything that we went through, the data and the AI support. And then essentially moving more toward this idea of the launch of a strategic plan. And so this idea of charting that course and coming up with some goals.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
With the disclaimer that we will continually, as times change, our strategic plan may have to change. And it was really important to the committee to say, you know what, this is our vision for now for the next 5 years. But 2 years from now, if something changes, we want the flexibility to revisit and tweak our plan. So
Yeah.
continued
It's not
revision.
static, it's a living document that, can obviously be modified based on our progress and other factors. As we continue to collect data in those, in the climate surveys and everything else we do. And so looking at trying to build goals and trying to think about some of the goals that the Board of Education has had, these are some, umbrella ideas that things can, again, taking a look at all and synthesizing all of the data came out of the thought exchange and trying to prioritize what some of those goals are and thinking where we were, where we've been, where we're going. And so this idea of goal 1, we've talked about 21st century learning environments. And so comprehensive facility maintenance programs, really digging into how we can maintain our facilities in a better way. Safety and security measures, huge priority for us. We've talked about that. And then looking at our instructional spaces and creating innovative and open instructional spaces to support the kind of 21st century learning.
Did you want to talk about the board retreat process and how this could be?
Oh, yes, yeah. So, and again, when the board meets, the board, these are not board goals, right? This is a strategic plan, and the board can dig in, use some of this information, use what they know and the information that they have to start talking about setting some smart goals moving forward. So I don't want the board to assume that we're trying to do the work of setting board goals. These are more overarching, just kind of strategic plans.
Charting the course.
Correct.
For creating their goals.
Mm-hmm. Goal 2, fiscal and education sovereignty, just kind of taking that language, strategic fiscal plan, funding diversification efforts, and efficiency measures. Supporting student agency and academic success will be looking at our curriculum alignment, academic standards, professional development, and educational attack and global competence. Goal 4, and did you want anything?
Open.
Communication, community engagement. This is going to be a big one for us. Continue to build on strong community partnerships, transparency and communication, and celebration of achievements to build positive perceptions of our schools. Social emotional learning and diversity and inclusion. This is going to stand on goal of ours for 7 years now, 4 years. But looking at our multi-tiered system of sports, how are we doing really supporting kids from a holistic standpoint, making sure that we have these inclusive environments within our schools, and obviously that's been a goal of ours, and the culture of care initiatives that we've already started and we continue to reflect on quite frequently. So that brings us to this idea of New York State's Graduation Measures Initiative. And again, one of the things I would say about our current commissioner and our board of regents is that the thing that's driving the conversation in New York State is all about equity of access and educational opportunities. There are three things that are dividing, and this is not from state ed, this is my perception. There are three things that are really dividing different schools. A school like Santa Alexis has two things against it. We're small, and we are not a rich district, okay? Because smaller districts don't have the opportunity to put the numbers of programs in place, the AP, and all those offerings that other districts have. You know, we don't have an orchestra program. It's too small to have a band and an orchestra. But if you go to Great Neck, they're going to have both of those, aren't they? Right? So size of a district really matters in terms of educational opportunities. The other thing is we're not the wealthiest of districts. We're, again, we're 6 to 8, poorest in the county. We don't have the same resources. And I'll use Great Neck, or I'll use Jericho. So, and think about the little, and then geographic location. Rural districts are at a disadvantage because they don't have access. So between size, geographic location, and poverty level, districts are at different places in terms of the educational opportunities they can provide. And the state sees that. So when you hear the commissioner and you hear the deputy commissioners talk about regionalization and push toward regionalization, I was just at one on Educational Coalition this morning, and very passionate gave this plea to say, hey, listen, NYSE's got to be on board with us here, because we have got to work together to find creative solutions so that a kid in Plattsburgh, New York can figure out how to take that AP course that they don't offer with a kid from Jericho. Because that's what should be happening in 2024. We should be leveraging resources to provide opportunities. And that's part of this transformational vision that they have in terms of graduation measures. But there are things that are going to change.
Yeah, so just to educate you a little bit on the process, they engaged in a lot of research and stakeholder feedback. They've essentially identified 4 priority areas and 12 recommendations, about 3 each in those areas. And all of it hinges on this idea of a New York State portrait of a graduate. When we're graduating students in New York State, what does that look like? What does a graduate from New York State with a New York State endorsed diploma, what does that look like? And using that as
And so basically New York State, but New York State is saying that it's not a test that tells you if you could do this. But in these 6 areas, a graduate needs to have some mastery in all of these 6 areas. So you need to be a critical thinker, okay? And everybody needs to have that skill.
Yeah, we're going through a lot of information, and I know that we're going quickly, but just to pause, this is a whole other thing that you just started on. So just wanted to just comment on what we just went over for a second.
Oh, yeah.
So the strategic plan, and I recognize the sample size small, help for the not for students and teachers, but for your thought exchange app. I think it would be really great to post about the tool that was used to the community in a more an easy to find way on the website, so that they can feel like this is a really great tool and this is what it does, versus us telling them. They can see it for themselves. Go to the website, check it out, see that it's safe and what it does. So although it has a small sample size, what I do like is the amount of data that's produced. So the qualitative data and the quantitative data is immense, as you can see from this thing. So I think that will help the community understand the impact of it, when originally they might look at that and be like, hey, this is how can we tell anything to 25 people? We really can tell a lot. Anyone who's done a dissertation that's qualitative knows that you can do a small sample size and still get a lot of data. So I just wanted to comment on that. And then the last thing was, how do these goals translate into priorities, tasks, and actions? And how do we factor in feasibility with some of the challenges that we have, so that we can then identify where are those gaps that we need to work on first, and what are achievable needs that we have? Who decides that, and how do we work on that?
Yeah, so I think that we need to, and again, as a Board of Education, we'll dig into some Board of Education goals. Again, these are sort of more umbrella ideas for a strategic plan. This is where we kind of steer the ship to, but we're not navigating, the nitty-gritty details of it. That's for, the board and then administrative goals to be set to try to get us to that place. things.
And
If
so
that
it'll
makes
be
sense.
that the responsibility is right to kind of assess where are we as a district and what are the next logical steps to get us to that ultimate, achievement of those goals over the 5-year course.
So, and then, as far as this, so getting into the Portrait of Graduate, because that's kind of like where I started, right? We need to look at, well, what do we want a Center Rich's graduate to look like? And so we started to get into that. And a lot of them mirror this, but we kind of think ours is better. But again, now talking about, these are some of the changes that are coming, right? So when New York State, they had these 3 different diploma types, what they're basically saying is that, that it's not making sense for the way it's happening. So they're looking for more one diploma kind of thing than with endorsement. So you have your diploma, you have your seal of civic readiness, you have your seal of high university. You can add local credentials onto that. Sort of like in higher ed now with micro credentials and stuff. Like that kind of a system.
And that's really important to some of our students with lots of
Yeah.
learning challenges, right? To say that everyone in New York State earns the same diploma and you can get some credentials on top of that is really important to some folks for employability and just mindset and understanding that we're all, achieving at a level and then we can endorse from there.
Anything else?
You want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So the other 2 proposed transformations are that currently we have a 2-fold system. We have credits and assessment requirements. They're proposing the decoupling of that. What that looks like is very rough and kind of in the air right now, but moving towards a more evidence-based system that's not strictly tied to assessments, more flexibility and performance-based.
And that's not to say assessments are going to go away. Like they're basically suggesting that assessments might be one pathway because traditional learners are fine with taking a series of Regents exams and getting an advanced Regents diploma, but that's not for every kid.
And we know that's not the only way that kids can show what
To
they
demonstrate what they
right?
know.
And then finally, districts can add local requirements currently to their diplomas and hold back on the diplomas. That's not something we necessarily subscribe to here at Seven Ridges. But New York State is proposing that students who meet the New York State requirements get the diploma. There are some instances across the state where it's not true.
So anybody that's been in education for a long time has seen this. I mean, I think I may have 30 years ago when I first started in education, I may have seen this cartoon. But Tony?
Yeah, so essentially to highlight what New York State is proposing, or the Blue Ribbon Commission is proposing, this cartoon says for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. We have a variety of different ability levels in that. And essentially by asking all students to take that Regents exam, pass it with a level of proficiency, that's what we're asking them to do. It's not to say we're lowering standards, it's just to say that there are other ways for individuals to show their mastery and proficiency. And so New York State is proposing to move more towards a system that would look like this, not necessarily equality, but equity, giving students what they need, when they need it to achieve their learning objectives. So the question is, do you want to take this or?
No, go.
Okay.
We'll kind of work with it.
Okay, so the question is, based on the recommendations of the Blue Ribbon Commission, and we'll talk about the timeline in a little bit, where are we kind of on that continuum of implementation? And so we highlighted those 4 areas here, multiple pathways leading to one diploma. What's the work that has been done or is in the process of being done at Seven Ridges that puts us in a position to be able to respond to that once the Blue Ribbon Commission,
So,
go ahead.
So, and when we sent to the board that, it was funny because we were not included in the plan pilot. And I was devastated because I said, we worked so hard on this application and it was a great application. And so I emailed the state and I said, can you give us some feedback? I don't understand why we were not included. And you have to remember that the deadline for inclusion was January, I believe.
Maybe.
Around
December,
January.
yeah.
And we submitted in January. And then in February, I was up at a state leadership meeting and they were saying how they didn't have enough applications. They needed more diverse applications. They needed from upstate New York and Western New York. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. And I'm kind of like, well, when are we going to hear? And it was like, they were basically, they pushed it back, and then they pushed it back again, they pushed it back again. And so I kind of jumped in and said, well, we seem to be doing this work. We're IB continuing district, how can we not be selected? And the feedback we got was basically, well, you guys don't need the planned pilot because you're doing the work. And it was kind of like, but if it's a consortium to support each other and we're doing the work, shouldn't other people be learning from us and we learn from them? And there should be different levels of learners on the continuum here. So really frustrating for us because all of the feedback that we got was, no, you guys are doing great, you don't need us. So, just chiming that in to say that the multiple pathways idea is something that we've already started to build in.
So in recent years, we've built the diversity of our course offerings probably to the max for our size. You know,
Going back to what we talked about earlier, right?
right. So the myriad of courses that kids can take in our high school course catalog, all the enriching experiences through elementary and middle school. We did apply for and were accepted for a civic readiness pathway, an individualized art assessment pathway. We have applied and successfully awarded New York Seal of Civic Readiness to our graduating class of 2023. We will do the same for our class of 24, but in addition, they had the opportunity to earn the New York Seal of Biliteracy. So really great, again, that notion of here's your diploma and here's that credential to say to a future employer, you are biliterate. You know, what a gift to give to a graduate of Sunbridge is to be able to put that on their application.
CT.
Yep, we are in the final stages of offering 3 to 4 career and technical education pathways in-house. Again, size makes this really difficult for Sunbridge's schools, but we strung together logically some sequences in our course books. We've articulated with some colleges, and we're selecting industry credentialing exams in order to provide these pathways in business management, hospitality, agriculture, and I think it's ending up like an architecture engineering pathway, right? So within our course catalog, we're able to offer those. And so what that affords kids the opportunity is to have some industry credential to present to a prospective employer post-graduation. And then, of course, we have all of our IB and local endorsements like our CSIP program and things like that.
So when we talk about, some of the local credentials that we also add to our kids' diplomas. And then assessment flexibility, we've talked a little bit about some of the things that we've been working on here in terms of the performance-based assessments. All of this stuff very much aligned to the IB philosophy and our work with equitable grading practices and creation of rubrics so that, we are moving in the direction where we really can be looking at performance-based measures as opposed to, take a test and come up with a grade.
And I'm fortunate enough to get to see this alive and thriving in our classrooms every day. We're seeing more lessons designed around student voice and choice. Students have a selection in the way they get to their goal and what goal they're going to achieve, all aligned with the standards. And our IB philosophy, our IB professional development is really giving us that gift. So again, that assessment flexibility is not going to be some earth-shattering new thing for Sunbridge's. Our educators are at varying levels of getting there as we speak.
And then moving to the, meaningful life-ready credentials. I mean, I can't say enough about the progress we've made in the school to community program and to see the kids engage with that group. Because the first time we did it, it was like, a flop, frankly. But all of a sudden, that program has started to thrive. And now there's a viable kind of curriculum from 9th to 12th grade where kids go through different experiences and get to tap into some of the resources in the community.
So we work with local partners to come in and provide mock interviews for students and teach them how to shake hands and look people in the eye and talk to them about elevator pitches and how to really put your best self forward and communicate the things that make you special for an internship or employment or for that, board seat.
Talk about financial literacy, going to be a goal of the the Board of Regents and the Blue Ribbon Commission. So Career and Finance Seminar, freshman seminar.
Right, so for new for next year, all, with the exception of a few students, all of our students freshman year will sit through Career and Finance, which is a business course. It's the first credit that they need for CTE pathways, but it also provides, as Dr. Massera said, all of those, financial literacy pieces. And the plan, because school to community program has grown so much so quickly, is to put a course in place that can kind of handle that and guide at least our ninth graders through the meaningfulness of that program, and kind of carry them forward to all those capstone events for each year of high school. And then speaking of capstone events, we have a 8th grade MY community project that.
And from last year to this year, and last year I thought it was great, but this year was extraordinary. I mean, the projects the kids did.
The amazing things, yes. We have always our 12th grade students participating in a community action service, extended essays, really digging into their passions through
So the board has received some emails recently, right? From some students. Part of the capstone project for Rich Roberts' civics classes. So that's where those are coming from. And the ones that didn't make it to you made it to other local legislators or other decision makers within the community. So kind of really neat that our kids are taking that initiative and pushing that stuff out there.
And then really exciting and new for our PYP program, which is really in its infancy, right? We were just recently approved. We had for the first time our 5th grade exhibition. And Dr. Massera and I were privileged enough to sit in on some of those presentations. And they were spectacular. The passions that these 5th graders found.
Broadway tickets have spiked.
Yes, there was a group who shared, that there was an equity issue with the rise in Broadway ticket prices, and that they believe everybody should be able to go and see a play on Broadway. And these are 5th graders who, picked this passion project and made a compelling, presentation. And then finally, we have the culturally responsive curriculum instruction and assessment. Here is where my office really gets to focus on, well, what's the professional development moving forward to keep us in line with being ahead of the curve of the Blue Ribbon Commission and just what's great for kids. So we always have that DEI focus. It's a focus in curriculum writing. It's something that our material selection committees are very cognizant of. We're looking at a literacy program potentially in K-5. That is at the top of the list. We want to see authors from diverse backgrounds. We want to see perspectives, characters from diverse backgrounds. We want to see different ability levels of characters, all of the things that go into that. No place for hate designation across our buildings, the IB global approach, and essentially the professional development here is a list of the things we have done and are set to do for the upcoming school year. So almost 100% of our staff are.
We're probably one of the only districts on the island that has.
I think we are the only.
That has the number of teachers trained in mental health first. We're moving toward trauma-informed practices. We're actually, and I've told the board this, we're bringing in Dr. Robert Anda, who did the initial Kaiser study on trauma and the ACEs study, adverse childhood experiences, bring him into the region, and we will be training a staff member that can bring trauma-informed practices to every staff member in our district. And then the equitable grading, of course. We did a poverty simulation at the superintendent's conference day. And really all of these things about raising awareness for cultural responsiveness.
So these are proposed transformations. Nothing is set in stone through New York State. We want to be very clear about that. Yes, we're ahead of the curve and we're ready for them, but they're not here yet. So their proposed transformations are to adopt that New York State portrait of a graduate, to redefine the credits and expand the learning experiences, sunset diploma assessment requirements. It does not necessarily mean that regencies are going away. Please don't spread that rumor. It's already out there and it's running rampant. And then move to one diploma for all students.
And so their timeline is around November, basically, to have this full plan presented to the regions, ultimately. So, when Amy and I reflected on this, And funny, like this last stuff, Brian, came from the question you asked, and Amy and I said, well, we'll do this strategic plan. It fits beautifully into exactly what we're doing, so we have these last few slides, because we really do feel so confident that we've been doing the work over the past couple of years, knowing what was coming. Good leadership says you see it coming, and this is what we definitely did see it coming. From critical thinker, innovative problem solver, content areas, cultural competence, social emotional competence, effective communicator, and a global citizen. So, that's great, but we thought we would kind of look at that and say, based on the feedback we had, based on the thought exchange, based on all of the things we did, you'll see some overlap here, but a little bit different. See that?
Yeah, so, one of the things that's interesting in a New York State school and being a part of an international baccalaureate program is sometimes we're using words for the same things. And so it was important for the committee to take a look at the New York State Portrait of a Graduate and put that with the IB philosophy and all those vision statements, as Dr. Massaro said. And so the language is slightly tweaked, but the sentiment is there. So one of the things that's very encouraging is we kind of were finishing this right about when the Portrait of a Graduate came out, and we looked at it and we were like, oh, we did a good job, like we got them all, and then probably maybe a little bit more. So it's a little bit more heavily IB language, Smith.
Balanced and flourishing.
Right.
Kind of language.
But the sentiment is all the same. And so, the committee was really excited about this. One of the things that they were suggesting is to kind of, through our communication goals, piece this out and share, pieces of the portrait at a time and make it digestible for the community to really understand the good work that went into the development of this strategic plan. And then as a part of this presentation, we, as a committee, came up with the descriptions of what the heck those things mean. And again, we're not going to bore you and read them, but they will be available on the website along with the proposed plan.
That's
You're not going to say it?
all about the small town teacher's global mindset.
Thank you.
And again, like our connection, and this came out of the small town teacher's global mindset, came out of that work that we did last year about looking 10 years back at center interest, changing demographics, and what are the things that people value about center. And that's kind of what we came up with our tie to IB. And I think it kind of suits it. So, thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions, anybody?
Yeah. A long time, a lot of work.
They did well.
General public comment? Okay. The next Board of Education meeting will be Wednesday, July 1st, 2024. The reorganization meeting followed by a regular meeting. That would be at approximately,
Yeah, it's Monday.
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 Monday, July 1st. That was on my mistake. Approximately 5:30 at district office. Motion to adjourn. Motion second. All in favor? Yes, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.